Our next speaker is from the city of Austin, and he will be sharing with us some of the tactics that the city has used to really drive participation in their open data program. So please welcome back to the stage, Nat Esquibel.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk to you today about something we did in Austin, which we've come to know as the 90-day participation plan. It's part of our Open Government Initiative, and as you can see, we're calling it our Open Data Initiative 2.0. And the reason we call it 2.0 is because we first launched our data portal in 2011 in Austin, and it started with a lot of enthusiasm. We had a lot of participation from the community as well as departments. But probably as many of you know, that enthusiasm can be short-lived, especially when you get to the departments and you start asking them for more data, and you start asking them to manage their data and keep it up to date and make sure that the data is being maintained. And so, over the 3 years of our data program, it's kind of gone like a little bit of a roller coaster where we have highs, a lot of activity, a lot of interest, a lot of things happening around data. And then you get complacency and you get where things are kind of moving a little bit slower than they started at. Every time we've hit one of those little valleys, we've relied on the community to kind of recharge our batteries. We talked a little bit yesterday about some of our strategies in hackathons, and one of our key strategies is relying heavily on our community. In Austin, our data program is largely a grassroots effort. We have our city manager being a champion to a certain degree, but it's much more of a blessing than it is, we're living and walking this data thing. So most of the data initiative is happening in the middle of the organization and with the community. But as we started this 2.0 initiative, our city manager said, I really want to back this. And this really kind of started in late 2014. And he kind of said, I want every department to have data on our city data portal. In the past, it was kind of elective, and again, we only had certain departments representing. So part of that drive from our city manager led to us coming up with this 90-day plan. And so what we did is we brought all the directors from every single department and office, which in Austin is over 40. I think we have about 42 departments and offices. And we got them into a room, and we actually had the city manager we were standing side by side, talking about what our open data initiative would include. And we really wanted to, again, drive every department to participate, but we also wanted to increase the competency and the knowledge and really kind of plant the seeds to change the culture so that the willingness to provide data by departments was much more intrinsic than it was arm twisting. And so these are the kind of things that we started asking departments for. And we started off by asking each department to identify what we call an open data liaison. That person would be responsible for representing that department and their data assets. They would be somebody who understood the business and would be able to make decisions about what data got posted. We didn't want to create a bureaucracy where every data set needed to get approved by somebody way up and would automatically delay it. So when we presented to the directors, we said, you have to authorize this person to be the decision maker about the data. As I mentioned, we wanted to focus on creating a competency, a language, a culture of openness amongst all the liaisons. So one thing we required is that they must participate in workshops and events. Now, some of these were elective and some of these were mandatory. So, we had a nice little combination in there. One of the classes that we started with was a Socrata 101 class. We wanted to teach people in the departments that the tool was available to them, it was easy to use, and we actually had them walk through several different types of data uploads in our Socrata 101 classes. We had 6 of those. Each of those classes was filled to capacity. And in fact, we actually need to have more of them. We'll be planning those in our next iteration of this plan, as I will describe it to you a little bit later. We had people participate in hackathons. We actually had our ATX Hack for Change. We had about 179 people attend that hackathon. Out of that number, about 40 of those were city employees. So people who were representing the department actually showed up, talked to the people who were using their data, actually participated on the projects. They became part of the project team who were hacking solutions over that weekend. And we provided a speaker series. Each month, we brought in speakers from the community to talk about what they were doing with data, what they were interested in. We had people from startups in Austin come in and present. We had people from the media, which was a very entertaining one, as you might imagine. We actually even invited some of the watchdog publications that really watch our data really closely. There's one called the Austin Monitor, which they report on everything city. We brought them in to actually talk with the liaisons and really, I think, brought down a lot of walls in terms of like what their interest is and how they would like to relate with the city versus the perception of what the city thought they were wanting. And it's always a bad story. It was like, no, we actually just want to have a relationship. So it was a neat introduction. We actually brought people from healthcare, where we thought, okay, we're only going to have people who are interested in health data. Where are people getting allergies or the flu? But that data set has a lot of data sets that it touches, and people in the departments were amazed to find out that my data set from code compliance actually has something to do with health data. My data set from transportation actually has something to do with health data. So all those things were actually really eye-opening, and I think started to build this awareness and culture within the city that was kind of taking down the walls of fear and kind of opening up the doors for people to, again, want to participate, to see what the opportunity was. We started an open data inventory where we wanted each department to list all their data assets, whether they were public or not. And I'll talk a little bit about how that went, because that was probably one of the trickier pieces of this exercise. And then at the end of the 90 days, one thing we wanted to do was to have each department publish at least 3 data sets. And we did have some departments who already had published 3 data sets, and maybe that was the entirety of their data. What we asked of those departments was to revisit that data, make sure it was being managed, make sure it was being maintained, and update it as necessary. So I'm going to share with you some of the results of what we did. Clearly, one of the easiest things to do was identify a person. So everybody complied with, with that requirement of the plan. We have data liaisons now that we can reach out to in departments. When we get inquiries from the public, we know who to go to. When there's a question about how a data set is managed, maintained, we can always connect them with the right person. We still have 6 departments who are working on getting their data out there. They passed the 90 days without compliance, which we felt was okay. And there's still some other departments out there who are taking a little bit longer to get their data, but they are actively engaged, which I think is still a success in this case. Some of them were quality issues, some of them had to do with automation, those types of things. So they exceeded the 90-day plan, but we continue to work with those departments to get data out there. 59% of all departments published the 3 data sets within that period of time. And we had, as I mentioned, the early adopters who actually went out and updated their data. Maybe they published it in 2011 and never touched it again. So those actually got updated. So we actually ended up with about a 76% participation rate in terms of getting data published or updated. So over that period of time, we ended up with 287 data sets that were added or updated over the 90-day period. We pretty much had participation across the board from all departments, at least in one aspect of each of the requirements. And 149 of those data sets were new, which for our data portal actually equals more than 50% growth in what our data portal was before the beginning and to what we ended up with. So within 90 days, I actually think we accomplished what we intended to do. We got all of our departments participating. We definitely increased the awareness of open data and what the possibilities and opportunities are. And I think we really reduced the fear of departments of what participating in open data means. And having it time boxed in that 90 days with very focused attention was really very important. I already mentioned the speaker series that we did. Right now, we are going to be kind of defining what our next iteration is. And our next iteration is going to be more public focused. We are going to be taking the results of this program and releasing that to the public. In our next speaker series, which is actually November 20th, we're inviting Open Austin, which is our civic hacker group, to come in and review the results with us, to look at the data, to tell us what we did well and to tell us what we missed. And we are going to also depend on them to help us define what the tactics are for the next 90 days, what the measures of success will be for the next 90 days. So it'll be the community now coming in. Where we started with a very introspective look in the first 90 days, we are now going out in the next 90 days. And we plan to release our results in a public event like an Open Data Summit in Austin, where we will engage, we'll basically open up the results to everybody of what that looks like. So hopefully there's some things that you can see that are potential within a short period of time. And I think my time is up, but thank you guys very much.